much of what the ancient rabbis learned were kept secret or encrypted or hidden. And the burden of current rabbis in Judaism is to try to rediscover what they believed those guys used to know. And so that's why some of these quotes are so highly venerated in Judaism today. There was a guy by the name of Weissmandel, about the time of the First World War. Well, at the age of 13, he was able to get his hands on a few of the ancient books by some of the ancient rabbis. He became fascinated with the Torah. And he was in the habit of copying them down 10 letters across on cards, in a standard practice in cryptography. And he started to study deeply the text itself in a cryptographic sense, what you and I would call a cryptographic sense. And he made a number of interesting discoveries. Let me just share one of them, and this goes back to the period between World War I and World War II. Weissmandel, by the way, was on a train to Auschwitz and was able to escape, and he spent his life trying to do just the same kind of thing that Schindler did, trying to buy freedom for Jews, and he was obviously absorbed with that. But he also did make some discoveries. Now, the word Torah, which is the law, in Hebrew is spelled with 4 letters. Now remember that Hebrew goes from right to left. All languages go towards Jerusalem. Did you know that? English, German, French, Spanish, Latin, everything west of Jerusalem goes from left to right. Languages that are east of Jerusalem, Hebrew, Aramaic, Sanskrit, Chinese, whatever, go from right to left. They all go towards Jerusalem. I don't know what you do with that piece of information, but I just thought I'd mention it. But when we're talking Hebrew, we're going from right to left. You got used to that. The word Torah in Hebrew is in four letters: a tau, a vav, a resh, and a he. I have transliterated it for us so we get comfortable with it, to our Western way of thinking. T-O-R-H is a way of sort of transliterating the word Torah. What's interesting, if you go to the book of Genesis, Bereshit bara Elohim, if you go to the first tau, or T in effect, and you count 49 letters, take the next one, now the interval of 49 letters, the next one is a vav, okay, which is sort of like an O. And then you count another 49 letters, you come to a resh, and another 49 letters, and you come to a he. So here's the name Torah spelled out in what you could consider a Cardano grill of 49-letter intervals. Okay? Say, that's kind of curious. By the way, I have no idea what else he did with his time, to find these kinds of things. But you look at this and you say, well, gee, that's curious. That could have been just accident of circumstance. Yes, except if you go to the book of Exodus, same thing happens. You go to the first tau and count 49 letters. You come to a vav. You count 49 letters. Come to a resh. Count 49 letters. And you come to a he. The T-O-R-H equivalents, or Torah. Again, it's spelled with the same intervals. Well, you quickly come to the conclusion that can't be totally by chance, on the one hand. On the other hand, try sometime conducting a story, writing a story that will fit that kind of model. It ain't easy, okay? Try it sometime. But we're not through. If you try this on Leviticus, it doesn't work. But if you go to Numbers, it does work if you spell Torah backwards. Now, why would somebody bother is one of your questions, right? But it works. It happens. You go to the first he, and you count 49 letters, you get to the resh, you count 49 letters, you get to the vav, and you get 49 letters, you get to the t. In other words, it's as if you spelled Torah backwards. Okay? Again, 49-letter intervals. You go to the book of Deuteronomy, the same equivalent thing happens. We're dealing here with 49-letter intervals, which of course is 7 squared, 7 times 7. 49-letter intervals. Genesis, it goes forward. Exodus, it goes forward. Numbers goes backwards. Deuteronomy goes backwards. Let's take a little closer look at Leviticus. 49 doesn't seem to work, but the number 7 does. If you take intervals of 7, you get a yot, a he, a vav, and a he, which of course is the Yahweh, the unpronounceable, ineffable name of God. How interesting. That in itself is interesting. But let's put together what we know. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Exodus, we've got Torah spelled forwards. Exodus, we've got forward. Numbers, backwards. Deuteronomy, backwards. It seems that the Torah always points to the name of God. Let's look at another evidence of design. Imagine that I am going to give you an assignment. I'd like you to see if you can write a genealogy, but I want you to meet certain requirements. I'd like the number of words should be divisible by 7 evenly. In other words, if you divide the number of words you're going to use, I want you to, when you divide that number by 7, it comes out even. That means you can use 7 words, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49. You get the idea. Whatever number of words you decide to use, it's divisible by 7 exactly. How many of you feel you could do something like that? To write a genealogy? Good, okay, sure, of course, that doesn't sound that hard. I got another requirement. I'd like the number of letters that you have in your assignment when you turn in. I'd like them also to be divisible by 7 exactly. Now, when I say divisible by 7, I mean there's no remainder. It's not like you divide by 7 and have 3 left over. So in other words, it divides by 7 exactly. The number of words divisible by 7 exactly. The number of letters divisible by 7. How many feel you could still do that if you had a little time to fool with it? Maybe a computer to help you. Okay, good, no problem. I'm not through. I'd like the number of vowels to be divisible by 7. Well, that's getting a little harder, isn't it? It's harder to play with that one. I'd like the number of consonants to be divisible by 7 exactly. See, not only are the number of letters divisible by 7, the number of each category of letters, vowels or consonants, also divisible by 7 exactly. That's starting to get, how many feel they could still do that? No players, huh? I'm not even through. I'd like the number of words that begin with a vowel to be divisible by 7 exactly. I'd like the number of words that begin with a consonant to be divisible by 7 exactly. If you can do one, you can actually do the other, because the sum of those are going to be divisible by 7. You follow me? But okay, I'm not through yet. I'd like the number of words that occur more than once to be divisible by 7. I'd like the words that occur in more than one form divisible by 7. And I'd like those that occur in only one form to be divisible by 7. I'd like the number of nouns to be divisible by 7, and only 7 words that are not nouns. Okay? I don't think I have any more players, do I? No one wants to try this? I'd like the number of names to be divisible by 7, and I'd also like only 7 other kinds of nouns permitted that are not names. I'd like the number of male names to be divisible by 7. And I'd like the number of generations that you're dealing with also divisible by 7. And you've probably guessed by now that what I'm talking about here is the genealogy of Jesus Christ in the first 11 verses of the Gospel of Matthew in Greek. In Greek. Now, this is a little exercise, of course. What I'm dealing with here are the discoveries of an interesting guy by the name of Ivan Panin. Ivan Panin was born in 1855 in Russia. Got kicked out of Russia because he got entangled with a plot against the Tsar. He went to Germany, got an equivalent to a PhD there, then finally came to America. Went to Harvard, got a PhD in mathematics at Harvard. And then an interesting thing happened. Very bright guy. But an interesting thing happened. He became a Christian. He discovered Jesus Christ, and he discovered the Bible. But he also discovered that the Bible seems to be organized around 7s. And I don't mean just that there's 7s in the text. 7 bowls, 7 trumpets, and all that business. There's plenty of those. There's over 600 examples of 7s in the text itself in terms of reading it. No, he discovered that that heptadic structure, the structure built around 7s, even gets inside the language. And he spent 50 years of his life tracking down these things. He left behind, when he finally died, 43,000 pages of small handwritten discoveries of 7s in the Scripture. And I thought we'd go through each one of these this morning. But that would probably be a little rough. But he discovered, let me just mention one of his discoveries that really, it's easy to overlook. If you're wading through some of his stuff, it can appear pretty tedious at times. But he discovered something rather interesting. He discovered that the vocabulary that's unique to Matthew is an exact multiple of 7. In other words, there are words in the New Testament, Greek, that occur only in the book of Matthew. There happens to be 42 of these. 42 words in the Greek that only occur in Matthew. Now 42, of course, is 7 times 6. It's a multiple of 7 exactly. It also is interesting that the number of letters in those words is 126, which is also a multiple of 7 exactly. See, he's just fascinated that every place he looks, he sees it a multiple of 7. Not 5, 6, or 8. No, 7. Now, what makes this particular discovery strange is how was this organized? Let's assume you were Matthew, and let's assume that for some weird reason you decided you wanted the words that you only use. These words, the only thing that these words have in common is they're unique to the Gospel of Matthew. How, if you were Matthew, how would you organize that? How would you make it come out that way? Well, there's only 2 ways you could do that. One is you could get an agreement by all the other writers of the New Testament not to use these particular words. Or putting another way, to have in front of you all the writings of the other guys, summarize their vocabularies, and then confine your attention to words that they haven't used to make sure you only use some multiple of 7. Either you got them all to agree, and that's absurd, because or because some of them wrote after he died, I suspect. Or you somehow, it proves that Matthew wrote his gospel last. The only way Matthew could organize this is if he had everything else in front of him, right? So this is a way of, you could say that, well, this peculiar property proves that Matthew's gospel was written last. Okay. The problem is, this is not only true of the Gospel of Matthew, it's also true of the Gospel of Mark. Not only was Matthew written last, Mark was written last. Whoops. Doesn't compute, does it? But it's not just Mark. The Gospel of Luke has a vocabulary unique to Luke that is an exact multiple of 7. The Gospel of John has a vocabulary unique to John that's an exact multiple of 7. James, Peter, Paul, Jude, each one of these were written last. Let's go to Isaiah 53. That was Yaakov Ramsdell's first discovery. Here's the high point of the Old Testament. Of all the passages in the Old Testament that deals with the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, you've got Isaiah 53. Encrypted in that is Yeshua Shmi. Yeshua is my name. That's pretty impressive. Stand by. You have Yeshua is my name, his signature, Messiah, Nazarene, Galilee, Shiloh, Pharisee, Levites, both high priests, Caiaphas and Annas, Passover, the man Herod, wicked Caesar perish. And that evil Roman city, let him be crucified, Moriah, cross, pierced, from the atonement lamb, bread, wine, Obed, Jesse, David's line, of course, seed, water, Jonah, on it goes. Each of these having, you could preach a sermon about any one of these in its linkage to Isaiah 53. You say, that's pretty impressive? Stand by. Here's a list of the disciples. Disciples that mourn: Peter, Matthew, John, Andrew, Philip, Thomas, and 2 Jameses. Not 1, 2. There were 2 Jameses, right? Okay. And you've got Simon, Thaddeus, Matthias, 3 Marys, Salome, and Joseph. Now, it's interesting that one of these Marys and John and Yeshua are all linked together sharing the same yod. Remember where Jesus looks down at John and consigns Mary? It's interesting, interesting. Obviously all by statistical accident. 40 names in 15 sentences, encrypted. They're clustered, relevant. It's the clustering, it's not just the names, the clustering and the relevance that is the profound aspect of this.